Thanks for coming. The best thing about 2-0, chance to go 3-0. It's going to be real difficult. Obviously, a very good team. Comments about Tulsa, we're champions. Tulsa on defense had a bundle of them, playing really, really high-level defense right now. On the defensive line, wow, we had Mike Hill, Jalen Holmes, Sam Hubbard, Robert Landers, and Tyquan Lewis. That's 5 guys, really good. Linebacker, you had 2. 2 of the 3 made it, Raekwon McMillan and Worley. And the back end of our defense is playing outstanding. Garyon was 9 for 9 making plays, playing very high level. Denzel Ward was 4 out of 5 making plays. Malik Hooker was 7 out of 9. And obviously you had a very exceptional interception and run back. And then Damon Webb was 5 out of 6 make play. Those guys were all champions. And then the player of the game was Marshawn Latimer, 9 for 9 make play, two picks, a touchdown, and 3 tackles. Once again, playing at a very, very high level in the back end of our defense. On offense, Noah Brown and Paris graded out at the wide receiver position. Marcus Ball played pretty well. Pat Elflein and Billy Price up front. And then Mike Weber, the honorable mention, as did Dontre, but did not grade champions. Curtis Samuel was offensive player of the game. I think was he for player of the game in the first game too, might have been, but he's playing a very high level. Kicking game, you had Paris Campbell was dynamite. He had 5 tackles, 1 down punt inside the 5-yard line, tackle inside on the 15-yard line, inside the 15-yard line on kickoff, 34 production points, which is exceptional effort on kicking game. He's fallen into that category of Evan Spencer, just does everything for us. Exceptional player for us right now. So that's it. Started slow against Tulsa on offense. They were blitzing a lot, moving a lot, creating a little disruption in our offensive line. We settled down a little bit, obviously, believe it or not, after the delay and the rain. And I thought JT started off slow but played very well at the end. So I'll answer any questions for you.
Front row, Bill. Obviously, this is the game that people have pointed toward. How ready do you think you guys are for this kind of challenge?
I'll know more at the end of the week, but I think I'm glad we have 2 under our belt for the new guys to play a little bit, and got a lot of respect for the personnel. We're facing a very good team.
And the offensive line, last week, the offline was the only champion. Today it's 2. Are you concerned about where the line is going into this kind of game?
I'm concerned about everything. I have a lot of confidence we are getting better and better each day, and that's growing pains with 5 guys that have to work together. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned, but I think we're further ahead than I thought we would be at this point.
Second row, Rob.
Urban, what would you say is the hardest thing about going on the road? Everyone has their own opinion. I'm just wondering what worries you in general, and maybe
with a veteran team, nothing, other than, you just got to deal with, depends on who you're playing. If it's a very good team, I don't really look at it that way. I do when you're young. There's no way to simulate going on the road in the off season, or I would have done it. Gene would have been a little bit upset if I said I need 60 grand to go take my guys to somewhere. It didn't work out. We didn't do that. But that's the only thing with a young team, the newness of what happens on the road as opposed to focusing on their assignments.
I'm guessing you were about 8th grade when Oklahoma came here. I think you were an Ohio State fan. Do you remember that game at all? Von Shaman, field goal winning it. They said it was the loudest, maybe the loudest the stadium's ever been, or right up there.
At Oklahoma?
No,
or
no,
here?
no, here, the game here. No memory of the...
No, I remember Coach Bruce lecturing me about when they beat, he gave me a little bit of this not too long ago, about when they went down and beat, was it Dupree, was the tailback, when Ohio State went down there and won the game. That's all right. Oh, absolutely. They ran wide, who's the doctor? The great tight end here.
Frank.
Yeah, John Frank caught 2 touchdown passes, and so I got a little bit of that. Put the play in.
Front row, Dave.
Urban, Dontre Wilson was playing very well. It seemed like he was a little banged up at the end of the game, maybe a foot. He seemed to be limping. Is he okay, or what's going on with Dontre?
Yeah, we rested him yesterday. Sore, he had that broken foot a year ago, but he should be fine. I think he's playing very well.
And Jay-Sean Cornell, any other injury updates as far as Jay-Sean
Dante
Cornell?
Booker is still questionable, but I should put in probable. Jay-Sean Cornell, I'll know more tomorrow.
Front row right, Austin?
Urban, how much, if any, value do you take out of, Houston, what they do offensively? You have that film recently. How much stock do you put in it? How useful is it for you guys to prepare for this week?
Well, it's very useful. Very similar offenses. Houston made their money on. It's not like they methodically moved the ball down the field on them. They made some big plays on them, and great two or three back shoulder throws, a couple isolation passing routes, and a little trick play to the tailback, swinging out of the backfield. But it wasn't a methodical beating that I think it was 33 points they put on them, but they played very well.
I don't know how this really works for coaching staffs when you get into the season, but you have a relationship with Tom, and I don't know how it works maybe for the rest of the staff, but is there communication between you and Houston when you have a similar opponent like this?
Yeah, we did talk to Tom. Just got their thoughts on personnel, because you see what you see on videotape, but it was more about personnel because they have a couple new players as well on the back end of their defense. And what's their thoughts of the defense line? Schematically, not as much because we get the same videotape they have, and it was more about their personnel.
Is that something you can set aside for any coach that calls up to ask advice? I mean, or is it just a personal relationship that works in your favor for something like this?
Do we set times?
Would you have these conversations with any? Are they common? You think?
Not with us. It is if we have like a relationship with Tom, and there's some similarity. I've called guys about if I've never been to a place, what's it like, that kind of thing. But every once in a blue moon, I'd say twice a year, 3 times a year maybe.
Second row left, Bill?
We saw, I don't know if you guys did it against Tulsa, but against Bowling Green, you did a Wildcat thing where you had Dontre and Curtis together in the backfield. I'm just wondering if you've ever done direct snaps to skilled players where you have like 2 dynamic athletes like that, or guys who are as dynamic as those 2 back there together, and what maybe you think projections for that formation could be when you have guys like that back there.
Oh, you wish you could be able to throw it. Braxton at times, it was nothing more than that. We'd throw it once in a while. We did the Wildcat Saturday with JT in the backfield, and we just shifted them off at the last second. And Curtis, I think we had 2 or 3 runs that way. Well, there's going to be something because you have 2 really dynamic guys in Curtis and Dontre. So that's something those are those checker pieces you enjoy moving around. But we will continue to do it. The problem with if you can't throw it, eventually everybody, and that's what happened if you remember Braxton early in the year, because there's still a threat of throw until they found out he couldn't throw. And you can start loading the box up there pretty good.
And we've asked you a lot over the last 2 years about defenses kind of changing what you see on film for your offense. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you said before that maybe when you played Oklahoma in the BCS title game, that was the first time or one of the first times that's happened to you. Could you just maybe talk about that a little bit, and what you remember about the challenges of facing that?
Yeah, traditionally Coach Stoops has been a 4-3 defensive coach with squeeze corners, a very unique style of defense. It takes a lot of work to prepare for, and I just remember the conversations, what if they changed? They had 40 days to prepare for each other, and they went to a lot of 3-4. And they're primarily a 3-4 team now. But that's one of the first times that's one of those sick feelings on the sidelines. And use language I can't use right here, like son of a.
Front row left.
It's tough.
Mitch?
Could you talk in some more detail about the slow start offensively and the adjustments you made? How concerned you are that could happen again?
I'm glad it happened now, because we were exposed a little bit. Billy and obviously Billy Price and Pat Elfline graded out champions because they're kind of veteranish, but some of the other younger first-time players, there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of pressures, every time we moved the tight end, they brought the pressure from the other side. So Bill Young did a very nice job defending us early on, and kind of settled down in the second half and started blocking them much better. But it all starts, when we have success, JT gets a lot of credit and the receivers do. The offensive line's playing well. When we struggle, the offensive line was struggling. That's what happened. And JT, did not play great early. I thought he played outstanding as the game wore on.
Second row left, Ari?
Coach, a few years ago we talked to you about how you tried to recruit Braxton Miller from Florida, and when you called up, you could just tell he was all Buckeye. And I went back and I looked today that while you were at Florida, you never signed an Ohio kid at all, and I would think that having been an Ohio person and you know what you think about the state, that you would have put more, or thought going into it, put more of an emphasis recruiting the state. What, when you were down there, was your viewpoint as a Florida coach of how can we go up there, and was it just too hard?
Well, Jim Tressel did a good job. I mean, we're not going to take the third, fourth, fifth down the line guys. We're going to, at Florida, you do like Ohio State, you're going to take the very best players. We went after a few of them, but there was just so many players in that immediate area where we're at. That's why we took a swing at a few of them, but Jim Tressel and Ohio State's hard to beat. Come in Ohio and beat them.
And you've picked up that same tradition. You are not letting anybody leave the state, and I was just wondering, you have mentioned...
Trying not to.
You have mentioned in the past that your national recruiting has maybe left the door open for some programs to come in and recruit Ohio, but is it almost harder for another top program that might be, you know, on the same level as you at Ohio State to come in here and recruit Ohio than it would be for a program that's going for the three-star lower tier guys that aren't getting Ohio State offers because they have to go directly against you?
That's great questions, and we spend an incredible amount of time because these darn 3-stars. The one thing about Ohio kids, I don't know the stat on this, but the Darren Lees, the Tyvis Powells, those guys that show up and turn out. The Pat Elfline, unrecruited guy, and I'd like to say that Ohio, for whatever reason, I think because just the way football is in their blood, and they maybe develop a little bit later because they don't have spring practice. You know, those are all things that you have to consider because these Ohio kids, that they turn out, they go to these Michigan States, well known to come take these Ohio guys, and also boom, they become great players. So I think they're maybe a little bit behind it because of the lack of spring practice. These states that have 4 years of spring ball, that's like a whole nother year of football. And Ohio doesn't have that. So a lot of times these kids get 1 year in the program, like a Darren Lee, and all of a sudden, you know, they have great success. So that's a lot of time, a lot of effort spent trying to do our background on them. And that's my biggest fear about Ohio. I think the big-time guy that will be, you know, we might lose 1 or 2 of them, but we're going to be involved with them. We lost a couple kids to Notre Dame the last couple of years from Catholic schools in the state. That's always going to be a battle. But I spend more time worrying about this young player that, for whatever reason, you know, you just know in your heart, like Luke Fickle knows his state as well as anybody, and he's a really good recruiter about that. I think this kid's going to turn out to be, give him 1 more year, and he's going to be a major player. And I think one of the reasons is because I mentioned before the spring practice issue, that the players aren't trained in the spring.
Bob Stoops is kind of like you were at Florida, though, because he's from Ohio and he's running a program that is maybe top 15, top 10, like Ohio State. Is it just harder for him to come in and go against you guys, though? Because, like, Michigan State might be able to come in and Kentucky might be able to come in.
Michigan State might take that, you know, they did get L.J. Scott, who's there, but they take that, and Wisconsin does the same thing. They come in and they get that I think they do a great job of evaluating players. I don't think Oklahoma comes in Ohio very much. I don't feel them.
They go against you for the guys you want.
I think that's probably, you know, why would you know, there's probably Texas where there's more quantity of players. Those are questions to ask him, though, obviously.
Back row right.
Urban, let's move past the Von Schaman game. When you were here as Coach Bruce's assistant, what did you think of Oklahoma then? I mean, they had Coach Switzer, they ran the wishbone, they might lose 4 fumbles and still score 50 points. Just your memories of in that era?
Oh, yeah. It was them in Nebraska and Texas. Had a lot of respect for them. I can't really say it. We didn't play them, so I didn't know. I wasn't here when we played Oklahoma. But I had a lot of, you know, like everyone else in the country, they were top dogs.
Far right, Brian.
How happy have you been overall with just the administration of the offense? Calls getting in quickly, you know, with the switch upstairs and Coach Warner. How's that gone for you?
Oh, very good. The first game I thought was outstanding. Second game, you know, we started a little slow, but I thought the adjustments made, especially at halftime, were very good. And especially I think Coach Mick and he's mentioned this, but the maturity of our team at that hour and a half, whatever that delay was outstanding. I've been on teams where you'd be, oh gosh, what's going to happen now? But they were very professional. Our staff was outstanding, and we played our best football in the second half.
I think you mentioned that the offensive line might be farther ahead than you expected. Just offensively overall, with so many new faces, and other than the slow start, is it ahead perhaps?
Yeah, you take away the first 10 minutes of that game, I'm fine. You know, I didn't think the first 10 minutes was very good. Once we got going a little bit, JT got going, the offense line started blocking them. I was very pleased.
All right, Nick.
When you look at the secondary and how important communication is in that position, In the offseason, were you worried at all that those guys weren't going to mesh quickly, and then you've been surprised with how quickly they did?
Yes, was I worried? I worry about everything, yes. I was very worried. I have great confidence in our coaching staff. Did I think Malik Hooker would be playing at the level he's at? I wouldn't be telling you the truth. At this level, I thought he'd be a very good player for us and grow into that position. He's growing real fast. And same with Damon Webb. I think there's 3 new starters in that back end, and they're playing outstanding. So I was worried about it, but Greg's a very good football coach, and obviously Kerry Combs is a very good coach, and they've done a nice job.
What's the next step for them?
Just keep getting better. Obviously, you're going to face of the talented teams. I think the 2 we faced they're both going to win games. This one's real.
And the last 2 individuals, Tim? Urban, when you looked and you talk about Oklahoma being real, what stands out about them besides the way they align defensively? What just gets your attention?
Well, the size of the defensive line, you're not going to run. You have to be really on your target to run the football on them. They're big, gigantic guys inside, a very similar Alabama defensive line. They play the odd 4-eye defense, which is going to negate gaps and makes it very difficult to run. And obviously a skilled secondary. So I just think they're the whole package. They have a pass rusher that's outstanding, number 31. So just they're a very good team.
The other thing, talking about your secondary, these guys seem to enjoy the process of getting ready. I mean, from talking to them the last couple of weeks and stuff. Have you noticed that too, that they put in the work?
Yeah, they're junkies. Yeah, they're football guys that love it. They don't roll their eyes at work. They love work. There's competition at the corner spot. You better play well because there's some good ones right there with you. And they got a nice rotation. First time we've ever had a rotation at corner. And then safety spot, Eric Smith is getting a little bit of a move right now, so he's getting a little bit of depth. But they just love to be coached. They love football, and I can't speak on behalf of Greg and Kerry, but I know they love coming to work to deal with those guys every day.
And final questions, Doug?
Urban, when you have so many new guys that are playing, what are the conversations like with the offensive staff as maybe you're figuring out this is what we want to do as a scheme, this is what our principles are, maybe this guy as personnel right now can't quite do this? How much are you trying to fit what you want to do with, we're figuring out 2 games in, maybe this guy needs a little help here?
That's what we do all day long, trying to put the checkers where they belong. We're still figuring out the receiver position because they're so new. We don't have the one monster, the one guy that's your go-to guy yet. I think we're developing them. You still don't know enough about Marcus Ball and A.J. Alexander. You're used to having Hireman and Vanette. So and then you don't have Zeke, but you have this other kid that's running really hard right now. You have 2 pieces that we really haven't utilized before, and that's Dontre and Curtis. So that's what 50-year-old men do all day. They sit come in early and drink a lot of coffee and stare at grease boards.
And we
Kinda weird,
right after the Fiesta Bowl last year. This season, you expect to throw more. You want to throw more with JT. You just said Oklahoma's going to make it hard to run. So I guess this is it then, right? This is just...
Well, we have to be balanced. You have no chance in this game to think you're going to go just pound the ball. That they won't. Their defense is systematized not to allow inside run. Just their base defense, day one install, is negate the run. And so we're going to have to be very balanced.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you.